Looks like I'm going live, and it looks like I'm doing all of my camera adjustments live on Facebook. Not my traditional intro where I wave something wildly in front of the camera. Not my traditional intro where I try to make you guess who I am. Nope, this is a warts and all, on the scene, in the reel, as it happens, adjusting the camera angle, live broadcast of Tent Talks Tunes. Got a brand new tripod here, and I learned my lesson from a few weeks back. Rather than relying on the very stupid Mevo streaming software to actually work at the magic hour of 7 p.m., I gave it a dry run about a half hour ago just to make sure that it was going to work. And sure enough, I had to go ahead and do an update and a firmware update and a program download and all this stuff. But hey, I got it to work. And wouldn't you know it, here I am right on time, 7 o'clock live. At least I think I am. Let me check my big old monitor here and make sure that I am indeed going on live. Well, it looks like I am. And wouldn't you know it, here I am right on time. In fact, I better turn off the audio. I am. That's it, guys. You're getting it the best that live cable TV, such as it is in the year 2024, has to offer. So now that I know that it is happening, I see that Alan is on deck. Mike is on board. We have got a few other people tuned in. I can't see their names. It is safe for me to finally say, welcome everybody to this week's episode of Tent Talks Tunes. With a quick cough on the side. Hello, Pablo Ellison. He says it's 4 o'clock where he is. Where are you, man? What kind of strange dimension do you dwell in where it's 4 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock? How do you explain this? What does this mean? How can such a wild, insane discrepancy possibly be occurring? I need an explanation. Someone's got to help an old man. Whew! Was not here last week, as you know. I was on tour with the almighty ANTiSEEN. We did a very short, very successful, and very fun run through North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia. We played Chattanooga, Raleigh, Atlanta, excuse me, and Wilmington, North Carolina. I might be a little bit, besides being a little bit coughy, a little bit burpy and belchy because I chowed down some delicious homemade whole wheat drop biscuits with almond butter, organic grape jelly, and wildflower honey before I signed on. Like literally, I had my last bite at 6:58, signed on at 7. So the Labanza's full. Oh, the Labanza is full. Pleasantly so. So you guys get to watch me digest my food as I go live here on Tent Talks Tunes. Will it affect my performance? Who knows? We'll soon find out. So anyway, an awful lot of fun on this last run of gigs with ANTiSEEN. Basically go on tour, and now here's somebody trying to message me. People really... I guess this guy is not watching, because if anybody who's seen Tent Talks Tunes before, you know that I cannot be messaged while I'm going on live because the message window pops up and it's distracting and I can't see what you guys are saying. So don't message me. I'll talk to you later. Let's see. Kyle was at the show in Atlanta. Indeed, it was great to see you there. James Pogo wants to know about the Abdullah picture. In due time, guys, in due time. In fact, less time than you might think, because indeed it is tour-related. I'm going to go backwards from the last show we played to the most recent, from the last show we played to the first show we played. The last show we played was in the great city of Raleigh, North Carolina, the capital city of North Carolina. We played with one of our favorite bands, KIF, aka Knowledge is for Fools, who are Raleigh natives, and got to play a hometown show, and it was a barn burner. As is usual, when KIF plays, the venue is littered with shards, pieces, and chunks of shattered vinyl records. It's one of their gimmicks, and it's a good one. And also on the bill was Dallas Tetanus, whose shirt I am wearing. You might be able to see it here. I'll try to get a nice view of that very artistic and visually pleasing t-shirt by Dallas Tetanus. Dallas Tetanus is the band of a certain Mr. Greg Clayton. Greg Clayton being the drummer for ANTiSEEN on classic albums such as Eat More Possum and Southern Hostility, and a whole clutch of singles that were released right around that time. So he's got a brand new band. He's the guitar player and singer, and they were fun. They were great. It was a riffarama galore, and this guy just keeps messaging me. I got to keep minimizing him. Great fun. Great fun. Clinton Zilla is chiming in right now. Hello, Clinton. And Greg. Glad you guys are on board. So yeah, Raleigh was a lot of fun. We played very well. Kiff played very well. Dallas Tetanus played very well. Not one, not two, but three headline-worthy bands on one bill. Of course, one of them had to be on top, and I think we already know who that was. Just saying. Just saying. Before we played in Raleigh, we played in Wilmington. On the bill that night also was Kiff, Knowledge is for Fools, who, again, left the entire venue filled with shattered pieces of phonograph records and cheap fake flowers for the ladies. I actually picked up one myself and had Andy, the lead singer of Kiff, break a record on the flower as I held it in my fist. It was a very dramatic artistic statement, and I'm still scratched up in the arm from the shards of records that dug into my skin. I wear the battle scars proudly. I'm always happy to shed just a little bit of blood. Not too much, just a little tiny bit of blood in the service of rock and roll. And on the bill that night also were the Street Clones. Love the Street Clones, one of our favorite bands to play with. Good people, good times. Had a superb vegan burrito, courtesy of Mr. John Bridges, lead singer of the Street Clones. Thanks for feeding us, dude. It's good to know that there's someone out there who can keep me and my compatriots alive for a few hours with your generous food donations. Prior to that, we played in Chattanooga, Tennessee, with our other pals, Josh Mayfield and the Horse Thieves, and none other than Sweet Georgia Brown, who some of you might remember from opening up for us on our 40th anniversary back in October. And that's one thing I love about touring. Touring is going out on the road with people who I really like and whose company I enjoy very much, and going out to spend time with other people who I like and whose company I enjoy. I mean, what's not to love? There is nothing not to love about that. It's kind of weird. Because maybe some of you guys have something in common with me in that I read every single book that Henry Rollins ever put out starting in 1984. And of course, all of his Black Flag stories are collected in the Get in the Van book. And every now and again, I'll pick up that book and kind of leaf through it and read some of the tales of what it was like to tour with Black Flag. And as I get older and the more and more and more I tour, which I've been doing basically full time for the last 13 years, I'm just amazed at how fraught and traumatic and perilous and just downright god-awful touring with Black Flag was. You know, to read Henry's accounts of it, touring with those guys was a nightmare. And I just can't imagine that. You know, it's like even when things go wrong, as they will sometimes, you know, equipment breaks, vehicles break down, you know, any number of things can happen when you're a traveling band. But even when stuff like that happens, it's never a nightmare. It's always fun. It's always enjoyable. It's always rewarding. You know, just the chance to strap on the Thunder Lumba and play it at ear-splitting volume. I mean, that alone is enough. To get to do that night after night, what's not to love? And when you're with good people, excuse me, and you're surrounded by good people, it's the best. And yes, the cough is the last dead remnant of the creeping common cold crud I picked up on the last round of ANTiSEEN shows, and which was renewed at a record show I did. It's like I was just almost over the cold that I caught on the run of shows we did last month, and then I did a record show and caught another cold from somebody else. So it was a real tag team slambaroonie of common cold creeping crud that you guys get to hear rattling around in my lungs live on the internet, and also archived forever on my YouTube page. Yes, every cough, every rattle, every wheeze, it's archived forever. It lives forever on my permanent record. Cheers to that. Clinton Zilla says that Sweet Georgia Brown got that competition going. He was awesome that night. Yes, Sweet Georgia Brown. I've only seen him twice, the other night in Chattanooga and the time before that at the 40th. But, yep, he sits down with that guitar and that stomp platform he designed, and he really gets down and lays down the law. And it's always a pleasure to share the stage with him. And that brings us to the first night of the tour with ANTiSEEN in Atlanta at the Star Bar. We got to share the stage with the Rotten Stitches and Strike First. Two excellent, low down and dirty, gut bucket punk rock bands who I'd never met before, never saw before, but all good people, and enjoyed their set quite a bit. And I must say that we kicked ass too. But that wasn't the highlight of the Atlanta show. Nope. No. As cool as they were, the opening bands were not the highlight of the night. As, dare I say, ferocious as we were, I wouldn't even say that we were the highlight of the night. The highlight of the night started to unfold while Strike First was playing. I was out in front by the front door watching their set when there was, a small bit of commotion behind me at the door, and like these guys were like animatedly, excitedly wanting to say something, like they were trying to get in, but the doorman wasn't quite reading what they were saying. I sort of lent an ear over to what they were saying, and finally the doorman came over and said, "Hey, these guys say they have Abdullah the Butcher outside, and Abdullah wants to come in and meet Jeff Clayton." And I was just like, okay, bring him in. I mean, what do you say? I mean, my first thought was that it was just some guy claiming to be Abdullah the Butcher, or, it was a hoax or a prank, because the dude who made the request and the guy with him bore no resemblance to Abdullah the Butcher whatsoever. And by the way, I'm assuming that you people out there know who Abdullah the Butcher is. I mean, if you're watching Tent Talks Tunes and you're a fan of the almighty ANTiSEEN, one might presume that you know who Abdullah the Butcher is. Is this true? I'm seeing some thumbs ups. I mean, do you people really know who Abdullah the Butcher is? I'm going to take a swig of water and let you guys respond. I'm seeing lots of hearts and stuff. Apparently people do know who Abdullah the Butcher is. Oh, the hearts are clogging up my screen. Okay. I think it is safe to suffice to say that you guys know who Abdullah the Butcher is. Greg Lathrop says, "Yeah, man." Well said. Alan says he got extra credit in food science because he drew a picture of Abdullah in his notebook. You know what? That's cool. That is extra credit. Well earned. Bravo, bravo. Yes, the madman from Sudan, or, as James Pogo pointed out, Canada. But, we're not going to break kayfabe here. Yes, Abdullah the Butcher, the madman from Sudan, who has made his home in Atlanta for the last numerous years. I don't know how long, but he had a restaurant there called Abdullah the Butcher's House of Ribs and Chinese Food. And so, it was, of course, plausible that Abdullah the Butcher might be in an ANTiSEEN show, but I was dubious until I looked out the door, and sure enough, the madman himself from Sudan, making his way up the sidewalk. Apparently, Mr. Butcher has a bad hip, so he has to use a walker to get around, and he was moving very slow, but it was him. The very same wrestler who I hated probably more than any other wrestler ever, making his way up the sidewalk because he wants to come meet the lead singer of the band I'm in. Oh boy. So I immediately ran backstage, and you had the room where the performances take place, a long hallway, and then the green room in the backstage area. I don't think I got halfway down the hall before I hollered out to Jeff. I said, "Abdullah the Butcher is coming. He's here." And Jeff was, suiting up and getting into stage gear, and he was like, "What?" I think we were both in a state of extreme excitement and mild shock. And sure enough, here comes Abdullah backstage to hang out with ANTiSEEN. And it was amazing. He had his manager with him. I don't know, actually, he might have a team of management. I really wasn't paying attention to who was who, but he had 3 people helping him out. And the woman whose name I forget, I think was the manager, and the 2 guys that he was with were, I'm not sure, personal assistants, co-managers. I really don't know. I wasn't paying that much attention. When you've got somebody who you hated that much in the dressing room, specifically to talk to the band you're in, all the stuff on the periphery sort of gets blurry and hazy. So Abdullah, we pulled up a seat for him. He sat down, and he just proceeded to hang out, and we just chit-chatted, talked. It was amazing. I got to tell him to his face how much I hated him when I was a kid. And I said, I wish so much, I wanted so much for Dusty Rhodes to beat your ass. And Abdullah looked at me and said, "Well, he never did he?" I said, "No, sir, he didn't." And I said, "You know what? I wanted Ernie Ladd to beat your ass. And I hated Ernie Ladd, too. I wanted Ernie Ladd to beat your ass." And Abdullah looked at me and said, "He didn't do it either, did he?" I said, "No, sir, he did not." That shows you how much I hated Abdullah the Butcher, because Ernie Ladd was one of the top bad guys in championship wrestling from Florida. He was evil personified, and I wanted him to beat Abdullah. But as Abdullah pointed out, even he couldn't do it. Man, dreams do come true. So, ANTiSEEN have a song in honor of him called Dear Abby. And that's what led to this entire thing happening. The owners of the venue were friends with Abdullah's management team, and they reached out to them and said, "Hey, this band ANTiSEEN is playing. They've got a song about Abdullah. Why don't you come out?" And so that's how it happened. And the song Dear Abby, which I will thoughtfully and helpfully point out to you, is on our brand new full-length compact disc, Falls Count Everywhere, in which the Ultra lineup, you can see an autographed version of which on the back cover, the Ultra lineup, Jeff Clayton, Sir Barry Hannibal, Walt Wheat, and myself, in which all of us got together and recorded not 1, not 2, not 3, but 14 songs about professional wrestling. Tributes to Cactus Jack, Terry Funk, the great, gotta make sure I get this name right, was it the great Kabuki who spit out the mysterious green mist? The mysterious green mist! Not Invader 1. Invader 1 must die because of what he did to Bruiser Brody. Junkyard Dog, of course, Abdullah the Butcher. ANTiSEEN's good pal George South. Beauregard from the Pacific Northwest. Generalized tribute to the mysterious masked bad guys of wrestling. Yes, 14 wrestling songs on one CD. Dear Abby being one of them. If you haven't got it yet, you need to get it. This thing is almost out of print. We've almost sold out of the first printing of this. I've got some. You can go to my Discogs store and get you some. You might be able to go to the ANTiSEEN Big Cartel store and get you some before they're sold out. Believe me, you want this. This is a career highlight for yours truly, as is, so far, every ANTiSEEN project I've been involved in. Career highlights, one after another. 1, 2, 3, I don't even know how many there are. All career highlights. Anyway, we weren't going to play it that night, but we did play it that night. And of course, we made a bit of an event out of it. We brought out Abdullah with a towel over his head, so nobody knew who he was. Jeff did a big introduction for him. We played the song, and the crowd's love was palpable. I mean, they knew Abdullah. They loved Abdullah. And the song, Abdullah, Dear Abby, is about less than a minute and a half long. So it just didn't seem right to end the moment there, so I suggested that we play it again. We played it again. This time the crowd gathered around Abdullah and basically sang it to him and with him. And that's kind of the moment we were aiming to get, you know, just to let him know, as if he didn't already, but it's always good to remind somebody, just to let him know how much esteem he is held in and how much we love him and what an absolute giant of the sport of professional wrestling he was and still is. I mean, to me, getting to meet Abdullah the Butcher and hang out with him in the dressing room was just like meeting, I don't know, what do you want? John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Mark Mothersbaugh, Mark Farner. I mean, forget it. We're talking about royalty here, genuine royalty. And so he dug it. Everybody had a great time. And we did put into effect a verbal contract. It was witnessed by everybody in the room, every member of the audience, Mr. Abdullah's management team, myself, and everybody who's watched the video of it, which is on YouTube. You can look it up. It's on YouTube. Everybody witnessed the verbal contract that went down between ANTiSEEN and Abdullah the Butcher when he said that we need to make a record together. He said it. We agreed on it. Hands were shaken. Business cards were exchanged. And if I have to remind somebody or anybody every 15 minutes to make it happen, I'm going to do it. Because after all, in the ANTiSEEN hierarchy, I am the minister of propaganda. And it is my job to make sure that the propagandization continues apace. And that if Mr. Abdullah the Butcher will see fit to record something with the almighty ANTiSEEN, that it be done. This is a job that must be facilitated. Whew, speaking of facilitation, let's facilitate the arrival of Harry the Cat. What do you think about that? Come on up here, son. There's my guy. There he is, making his first appearance in a couple of weeks. The one, the only, Harry the Cat. We've seen a lot of love for Abdullah the Butcher. Let's have some love for this yellow-eyed demon. The one-eared wonder. The single fang-faced, fine, felicitous, ferocious feline friend of ours, Harry the Cat. The guy with the floppy arms himself. Yes, yes, yes. He loves to join us here on Tent Talks Tunes and hog all the attention from me. He's very good at it. He's not a cat, he's a hog. I guess now I'm probably obligated to change the camera angle a little bit so we can see him more clearly. Greg Lathrop says he can hear the purr motor. Yep. That's the same purring motor that will be immortalized very soon on TPOS, my label, with the full-length CD and cassette release of Harry the Cat Purrs for You. I've recorded a lot of his purring and some of his snoring and some of his waking up sounds and some of his grooming, and I've edited it almost all the way into a 60-minute program for your listening pleasure. And I got to tell you guys, I was editing some of the Harry the Cat purrs a couple of weeks ago, and I had it cranked up a little bit loud. It relaxed me so much, I dang near fell asleep right there at the editing table. It was really something. I actually got up and took a nap. I was so mellowed out by the sound of his purring at a higher volume than what you would normally get from his purr box. It was pretty cool. So I'm excited for it. Some of you folks sent me some screenshots of Harry a few weeks ago. Thank you for that. I've got some other photos to use for the cover. So it's going to happen. I have to edit one last little piece of his purring and then get the graphics together, and then it's going to go into production. I'm actually going to make, just to show you guys and to remind you guys that I am indeed a lover of the absurd and the sublime and the ridiculous, I'm going to professionally manufacture CDs of Harry the Cat purring. Factory-made, shrink-wrapped, compact discs, along with the usual DIY cassettes that have long been a specialty of mine on TPOS. So you heard it here first. You're hearing it here now again. It's going to happen, guys. Harry the Cat on recorded medium for your listening enjoyment. And I might have to put a warning sticker on that, a warning saying that if you play it too long or too loud, you'll probably go right to sleep. That's what I call a real parental advisory sticker. Pissy Chrissy herself wants to know, Digipack or Slimline Jewel Box? Digipack. We're going to do the Digipack on that. I love Digipacks. As demonstrated before, the ANTiSEEN Falls Count Anywhere is a Digipack. It's got the really cool sort of album cover-like cardboard sleeve with the disc mounted on a plastic tray that you can carefully remove to reveal sometimes artwork underneath, sometimes not. But I love these things. I really, really love the Digipack. And when they're shrink wrapped, they're just like such a tight, clean, neat package. There ain't much not to love. My good pal T. Kadef wants to know if there is a link for a pre-order. No, sir, there is not yet. But don't worry. I'm going to make it known far, wide, deep, and long when the Harry the Cat Purrs For You CD is available. Promise. Promise. If you don't hear about it, then I've done something wrong. Let's see here. Kyle says that he caught one of Big Walt Wheat's guitar picks. Yes, it is now in his punk rock history collection. Right on, Kyle. If you're like me, and I know you are, we love the souvenirs. We love the gig souvenirs. And I'm going to do some show and tell of things I picked up on this last round of shows. But I did not bring the giant stack of flyers, set lists, stickers, and other artifacts that I picked up. I love that kind of stuff. I really do. And in fact, you're kind of reminding me I need to make a new batch of guitar picks. I made some Malcolm Tent Rocked with this guitar picks. And I've run out of them. And I think I need to make some of them, but with the ANTiSEEN logo on one side. What do you guys think? ANTiSEEN logo on one side, the inscription Malcolm Tent Rocked with this guitar pick on the other side. I think it's a winner. And I think that the graphic is going to be this one. I designed this graphic. I made a very rough mock-up of this graphic and sent it over to Jeff Clayton and said, Jeff, what do you think about this? Next thing I knew, it was an actual ANTiSEEN graphic, which appears on these stickers. And I think this appeared on a baseball cap. I'm not really sure, but that's what I'm thinking. That graphic on one side and Malcolm Tent Rocked with this guitar pick on the other. And I saw some thumbs ups and some hearts. I think it's got to be done. Kyle is egging me on. He is cracking the whip. He is applying the spur. Alan is saying he's got to have one. I know Clinton Zilla's going to want one. Clinton Zilla, if you want one of them guitar picks, I promise you, the price will be right. Speaking of Clinton Zilla, Clinton and his wife Val drove a long way to see us in Chaganaga, Tennessee. They are from the great state of Kentucky. And the Zillas quite often arrive bearing gifts. Sometimes it's Mrs. Zilla's homemade soap or bath salts. Sometimes it is Clinton Zilla's custom-made ANTiSEEN DVDs featuring hand-drawn art by the young Zillas. The Zilla kids. Look at that. You've got the ANTiSEEN Nothing's Cool Penguin on one. You got the Great Cosmic Commander of Wrestling on the other. Hand-drawn, unique, one-of-a-kind. I love this. This is great. I don't know if I got to thank you properly, Clinton. Last time I saw you, it was at 8 o'clock in the morning at a restaurant chain whose name I will not mention on air because they never did anything for me, so I'm not going to do anything for them. If you guys enjoyed the meal, mazel tov. So if I didn't thank you, it's because it was too early in the morning and because there was precious little on the menu that I could actually eat. So here I am in public, publicly beating my chest and thanking you for these DVDs, and also to Mrs. Zilla for being there and holding the camera along with the camera you held while you guys recorded our show in Chattanooga. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Speaking of DVDs, I got one of these suckers. I got a couple of suckers. Today's a really good day for DVDs. How about this? ANTiSEEN Video Shit. Genuine, honest-to-God, authorized DVD reissue of, I think, the very first issued ANTiSEEN video. This goes back to like 1986, I think. Maybe 87? It's old. And as part of ANTiSEEN's policy of trying to keep everything in print, there is now a genuine authorized DVD version of this. I sent Clint and Zilla DVDs of all of the ANTiSEEN video releases I had. And ANTiSEEN's released quite a few official videos. And I transferred most, if not all of them, to DVD many years ago. Sent Clint and Zilla a big stack of the DVDs. He used them for masters, and in cooperation with ANTiSEEN's label Death Train Music, have now started the reissue campaign. So here's the first one. Got my copy from Jeff Clayton. Thanks, boss. Good to see that I hoard all those VHSs and digitize them for a reason. For a reason. Clinton Zilla says that I am a spry individual in the morning. I'm calling bullshit on that, Clinton Zilla. Also on DVD, the official Here to Ruin Your Groove broadcast DVD. This is when the Groove lineup, with Walt Wheat representing on guitar, played the entire Here to Ruin Your Groove album on a live webcast. I played acoustic guitar on a version of The Legend of Billy the Kid. It's on DVD, also from Death Train Music. Physical media is alive and well with the almighty ANTiSEEN. Go to the ANTiSEEN Big Cartel store and get you some. Clinton Zilla says, morning Malcolm is way better than no Malcolm. Whatever you say, guy. Whatever you say. Okay. On to the next point of order. Man, I've done all this ranting and raving, and I haven't even checked the bulletin board or the mailbox yet. What do you think about that? I was so excited and so agitated about having Abdullah the Butcher as a newfound in-life real person pal of the band that I forgot to talk about the bulletin board and the mailbox. Chrissy Walker says, yes, my morning Malcolm in my jammies. Yes, that is correct. Yes, that is correct. I insist on wearing a very comfortable pair of pajama pants whenever doing the long distance traveling. It's comfortable. It is so comfortable. Why wear trousers when you can wear your jammies and be luxuriously casual? I ask you that question. Or is it casually luxurious? One or the other. You know what I'm saying. All right. Well, we got another message coming here. Somebody's not watching. Somebody's not paying attention. Mallory got it going on. Oh, yes. If any of you guys saw the post about Mallory Tent, you'll know what these people are talking about on my monitor. If you didn't, I suggest you look it up. And I will remind anybody who needs reminding or inform anybody who needs the information that that shot of Mallory tent was not staged, was not posed, was not done with prior intent. It was just one guy in the band trying to be as efficient as possible and carry all of his stuff out the hotel room with only two hands. And I did a pretty good job of it. But of course, Sir Barry Hannibal, perhaps the consummate prankster, took a look at the way I appeared and immediately got the camera out and all hell broke loose. Oh well. The perils of being an ANTiSEEN. So perilous. As Clinton Zilla says, efficiency does indeed come at a price. I'll drink to that. So yes, such hijinks and shenanigans with ANTiSEEN. And guess what? There's gonna be more. We're not done yet with this stuff. There's more. What side of the bulletin board is it on? June 22nd, ANTiSEEN at our home away from home, Ground Zero in Spartanburg, South Carolina. We are playing the Ground Zero's 28th anniversary shindig. Not only ANTiSEEN, but our good friends I Hate God from New Orleans, and Mr. J.D. Pincus, perhaps best known for his stint in the Butthole Surfers, who's now doing his own thing. J.D. Pincus, ANTiSEEN, and I Hate God. Ground Zero, 28th anniversary celebration on June 22nd. That looks like it's probably going to be a big one. You might want to get some tickets in advance. Ground Zero is a fairly large venue, but we packed it out when we played there for our 40th, and this is another big event. I'll be there. What can I say? Before that, just a little over a week before that, June 14th, an extremely rare and rarefied sighting of my all-improv space rock noise band, Ultra Bunny. Oh yes, Ultra Bunny. We don't play out live very often, and since I'm moving to North Carolina, even as we speak, the wheels are turning on that one. I'm not there yet, but every day I do a little bit of something to get my existence boxed up, packed up, and down to North Carolina. Since I'm moving to North Carolina, sightings of Ultra Bunny will be even more rare from here on out. This is our first public gig in over 5 years. I honestly, and in fact, I'm going to say it right now, Ultra Bunny has not played a live show in public since before I joined ANTiSEEN. So, over 5 years, probably closer to 6. And John only knows when the next one might be once I'm settled in and become a North Carolinian. So June 14th, yes indeedy do, at Young Ethel's in Brooklyn, with the great Martin B.C. Collective on top, and Mustafina, and No Love Songs. Even if you do want to miss this one, you don't want to miss this one. Make whatever arrangements are necessary to come out and see Ultra Bunny, because we may never pass this way again. Actually, I got to sing it like Seals and Cross. We may never pass this way again. And I won't say anything about the jasmines blowing through my mind. That's the bulletin board. How about some mail, guys? How about some mail? We got a few items of mail that showed up in the box while I was gone. Gonna reach over here and grab the 1.5-mile scissors. Oh, there goes Harry. Hi, Harry. Don't know if you'll be back, little fella. He's gonna go from one comfortable lap to one comfortable sofa right now. Yes, here is an envelope from Rotten Princess Records. My pal Dan Bale out in Portland, Oregon. He's got a great label, Rotten Princess Records. And Kyle says that I will love living in the South. You know, Kyle, I'm a Florida boy. I spent the first 22 years of my life in Florida, and I was born in South Carolina. But yeah, after 36 years in Connecticut, and I'm going to tell you all right now, I love Connecticut. I like Connecticut very much. I mean, I moved here for a reason. I moved here because I hated South Florida with a damn passion. But I love Connecticut. I really enjoy Connecticut. But, you know, it's just time for the next phase of operations to begin. I've got a good band and a good woman waiting for me in North Carolina. And so I am very ready to wrap up my sleeping bag and fetch it to my new home in North Carolina, which, Lord willing and the creeks don't rise, will happen by the end of the year. Working hard on it. Working real hard on it. In fact, today I spent time packing up my personal library and my personal record collection in order to get the house ready for market and also to get the estate sale to end all estate sales in motion. Oh yes, the Malcolm Tent I'm getting out of here estate sale will be happening before I leave. You've been warned. So what's in the mail from my pal Dan Bale with Rotten Princess Records? Looks like some stuff. Looks like his noise project Boy Mouth on CD. And another Boy Mouth CD. It's very thick. It's got some stuff in it. What could be stuck inside this thing that's held together with a rubber band? Besides a CD. This is a very lumpy package we got here. Ooh, there's all kinds of folded up things. A personal letter with a mysterious object in it. Yes, I see handwriting. Handwriting on a piece of genuine notebook paper. And some stickers. Aha, look at that. Some stickers for the aforementioned Rotten Princess Records. Yes, indeedy do. And I got something else from Rotten Princess Records over there, by the way, Dan. Thank you. We'll get to that one in a sec. But first, we have another small envelope, and this is from an address that's been seen in my mailbox quite a bit, from LaPorte City, Iowa. By the way, that's what my address looks like when it's written by hand. Malcolm Tent, P.O. Box 3626, Newtown, Connecticut, 06470. Greg says, am I going to miss the Danbury tap? You better believe it, man. I've had some North Carolina tap, specifically Hickory tap. Not a fan. And I haven't met anybody from Hickory who actually likes Hickory tap. If you're from Hickory and you disagree, please feel free to chime in. But so far, the opinion has been unanimous. You see that thumb? It's going down, kids. Down on Hickory tap water. Anyway, LaPorte City, Iowa, which means it couldn't be anybody but TPOS recording artist Gary Forney, who's been sending me a lot of cool stuff lately for release on TPOS. And it is happening. As I've said before, I'm a one-man operation. I do everything from sweeping the floor to washing the dishes to designing the graphic arts to flipping the cassettes to setting the stuff off to manufacture. I do it all by myself. And I do it in my spare time, which I basically have none. So it might take a while to get things done, but they do get done. And the previous two releases I did by Mr. Gary Forney, the Ordinary Life and Chicken Insurrection albums, which are available on my Discogs and Bandcamp. It took a couple of years to get those out, but they did come out. They are available, and there will be more, because this is, I do believe, as threatened, ha ha ha, yes, Pumpkin, Gary and Bonnie Forney and Josh Forney's punk rock band, studio recordings. Studio recordings. There is a live Pumpkin disc on TPOS. This, my friends, is studio. I never even knew this existed until Gary told me about it a few weeks ago. So Gary, if you're watching, I got it. It arrived safe and sound. Ha! I love the package too. This is why DIY is so cool, because you can, on your own, make these really neat packages that open up and unfold, and have hidden flaps and stuff. I mean, this is just great. I love this. This is very cool. Thank you, Gorney. Gorney? Yeah, thank you, Gorney. Thank you, Gorney Fairy. Thank you, thank you. This is going straight into the TPOS release queue, and the Gary Forney fans out there, have patience and stay tuned, because it is going to happen. And also, Gary, I do have some 8 tracks to send you. That's going to happen as well. All right, so I mentioned Rotten Princess Records a minute ago, and here it is, a giant box. A huge box from Rotten Princess Records. Let's get our 1 mile box cutter and very carefully open it. The sound is not as soothing as Harry's purring, but I do like it because it reminds me of Christmas morning. What did Rotten Princess send? Oh boy. Big old box. Can you see that? Carefully packaged. Inside of the big old box is another box. And listen to that. You people know what this is. You know the sound of that. If you're a fan of physical media like I am, you know the telltale rattle of, cassettes. And I haven't even seen this yet. You guys are seeing the front of this before I'm seeing it. But there it is. Everybody Needs a Bad Influence Volume 6 split. Another split between my noise band, Fried Man, and my pal Dan's noise band, Boy Mouth. Here it is on cassette. I recorded a brand new Fried Man piece for this one, entitled Uncle Saul's Phone Call. And there's the Boy Mouth side. We also have a split CD that came out a little while ago. Those are still available. I'm really excited about this. I love doing the noise. The noise project is so much fun. Just taking raw sound and manipulating it and making it harmonize with itself. And it's really kind of hard to explain or describe exactly what it does. But it's a lot of fun. And yeah, Uncle Saul's Phone Call, exclusive to the Everybody Needs a Bad Influence Volume 6 cassette. If you want one, I got them. If you're a fan of soundscapes, sound sculpture, and just plain old sound, noise, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Thank you, Dan, for yet another fine, if not downright coarse, Rotten Princess release. All right. That takes care of the bulletin board and the mailbox. I've already told the tales, the tour tales, the tale of the tour tales. So now we're going to get into some of the great swag I picked up. I've been on the air now for almost 48 minutes now, so I don't know how much of this I'll get through, but I'll do my best. I picked up some really cool stuff on this tour. You know, I love driving to and from North Carolina, and I always have a big box of TPOS product with me, and I hit record stores on the way down and record stores on the way back and do buying, selling, trading, wheeling, and dealing. I love selling records to record stores. I also love trading stuff with the record stores. And I found a new record store on the last trip that I didn't tell you about. I was in the really cute town of Winchester, Virginia, and found a record store called Back to the Media. And they had not only records, but also comic books. And I was absolutely delighted to get not one, not two, not three, but four, count them, 4 issues of Howard the Duck. The original Howard the Duck from 1976-ish, written by Steve Gerber and drawn primarily by Gene Colan. I had all of these when I was a kid. And at that time, I did not understand hardly anything that was going on with these books. I knew it was weird. I knew it was eccentric. I knew it was social commentary. But I didn't really get it. Now, reading Howard the Duck as a jaundiced, skeptical, if not cynical, 59-year-old dude, I have fallen in love with these all over again because now I get it. Now I get it. Howard the Duck is right up there in terms of youthful influences on me with professional wrestling, Marvel Comics, Three Stooges movies. I mean, anything really by Steve Gerber is right up there as a huge influencer on yours truly. So thanks to Back to the Media in Winchester, Virginia, my Steve Gerber collection is now that much more complete. Still got to find a lot of issues of The Defenders and Man-Thing and I don't know whatever else he might have written, but yeah, I need them all. If Steve Gerber wrote it, I need it. And that's all she wrote. What else did I pick up while I was out there? Well, at another one of my favorite shops, Hippo Records. Hippo Records in Greensboro, North Carolina. I saw this record sitting in the bin for $2. And I'm the kind of guy who will take a chance on almost anything if it's marked $1, or even if it's marked $2, especially when it's $2 in trade. I saw this record marked for $1.99 if you want to be specific. And I looked at it and immediately said, I need it, I want it, I gotta have it. I've read so much about this record and about how terrible it is. In fact, I read a long screed by one of the people who made this record talking about how terrible it is. Well, you know, that piqued my curiosity. So when I saw it there for $2, I just knew that it was going to be mine before the day was up. And I have some personal experience with this band, which I'll talk about in 5 seconds. So who is this band? Who is this terrible band? I'll give you guys a clue. I'll give you a hint. It's on SST. I know that doesn't narrow it down much, but yes, a terrible record on SST from 1986. If you guys are fleet-fingered and want to do some internet research while I'm sitting here gabbing and yakking and foaming at the mouth, catalog number is SST number 0, is that 058 or 068? No, 056. 056. SST 056 from the year 1986. Wow, so they're putting out records that were universally loathed even before they got into the hundreds or 200s. James Pogo says, Tom Tricoli's Dog? Very close. Very close indeed, but not quite. What is this lousy record that I paid $1.99 for in trade that one of the participants disowns? Well, I'll show you some cool stuff that came in at first. You know, obviously you've got your ubiquitous SST mail order catalog. It's interesting to read their descriptions of some of these very hated records. Let's see. I might need another pair of specs to do this. Well, you know what? I'm not embarrassed. I got 2 pairs of specs. There's one. Fresh from the dollar store. There's 2. And I can see a lot more clearly now. Let's see. What's a hated record on the SST catalog and how they describe? Okay, here's one for you, the October Faction. The October Faction first album. This 1985 exploration of outer space has Greg Ginn, Chuck Dukowski, Joe Baiza, Tom Tricoli, and the Nazi sex doctor jamming on tunes like Todo Para Mi, You, Me, Bad Acid, and 5 more. That's what they say about the October Faction record. That's pretty nondescript. Now, I saw the October Faction. I saw them open up for Black Flag on the My War tour. And for about 5 seconds, it was really exciting and cool to see Greg Ginn and Chuck Dukowski on stage for the first time since Dukowski was unceremoniously booted from Black Flag. To see the two main dudes from Black Flag on stage again with the mighty Joe Baiza from Saccharine Trust. That is a very potent guitar lineup. So I saw them on that stage at Flynn's Ocean 71 in Miami Beach, Florida, and totally marked out. And they started playing, and my excitement level started up right around here and kind of went like this. To the extent where I might have walked out on them. I'm not sure if I did, but I might have. And the fact that I remember those first few minutes of the set, but do not remember the rest of it at all, might tell you something. It was definitely a case of the sum being far less than its parts. Disappointingly so. Now, when I read an article, and make sure I get the name right here, an article by Greg Cameron, the drummer of October Faction, talking about why the second October Faction record was even worse than the first, I knew that I had to hear it. Now, this is where we get back to what I was talking about a second ago. The first October Faction record was a live album recorded on that very same tour, the only tour they ever played on, and it's all excerpts from the meaningless, meandering jams. Jams that they indulged in every single night. And, it's like, what's not to love about guys like Joe Baiza, Greg Ginn, Chuck Dukowski, Greg Cameron, or, hey, I'll even say it, Tom Tricoli. What's not to love? Well, when you're just 5 strangers on a stage wailing about and aimlessly noodling for 45 minutes, there's a lot not to love. And that first album has a lot not to love. It's just these excerpts of the jams. They fade in, you hear a bunch of noodling, and then they fade out. And it's one of the most unsatisfying listening experiences I've ever had. And Lord knows I've tried. I played the promo copy that we got when it first came out at Open Books and Records. It wasn't any better than the boring experience I had watching them live. And sometime within the last year, I decided to revisit it. So I looked it up on YouTube, where of course somebody posted it. God only knows why. And it's kind of like revisiting Howard the Duck. It's like, well, did I miss something the first time around because, I lacked a certain amount of experience or a certain amount of critical faculty? Were there subtleties there in the October Faction that I just didn't pick up on the first time? No, there weren't. It was meandering, meaningless, noodling, aimless jams. Each song was an excerpt of a jam that would fade up as the jam was in progress. You'd hear the jam for a little while, then it would fade back. Highly unsatisfactory. So when Greg Cameron, the drummer of October Faction, was talking about how lousy the second record was, that's a guy who can speak with authority, I would say. I had to know why. I had to know why it was so bad. I had to hear it for myself. Now, here's the deal. This is how this album was explained. This is how Greg Cameron explained the recording of this album. He said that the members of the October Faction went into the studio. And I don't know the order of it, of the order of the players, but he said that the first player went into the studio and jammed solo by himself for, say, a half hour. And then the second, and this is like, the guy was in the studio all by himself with nobody listening, nobody around. The second player then went in, not having a clue as to what the first player did, and jammed along with the tape of whatever the first player laid down, nonstop for the entire length of the jam. And then the third player came in and played along with that, and so on until all 5 players had laid down 5 tracks that went along with music they had never ever heard before with nobody else in the studio. Interesting concept. Interesting concept. And I would venture to say that if you were like, say, Ornette Coleman's, one of Ornette Coleman's bands, or the Grateful Dead, for example, or even a band that's played together for decades like Cheap Trick, or even Aerosmith for that matter, or if your specialty is improv music and you really, really are grounded in the science and the art of improvising, it could work. An approach like that could work. But I'll reiterate what I said before. 5 strangers on a stage, now 5 strangers in a recording studio where they can't even see or hear or interact with each other, and they're playing along cold to a tape. Well, I'll say this. I think it is actually better than the first October Faction record. If for no other reason than you get a cohesive whole and not just random excerpts from aimless jams. It is a piece. It's got a start. It's definitely got a middle. And it does have some kind of an end. And it is about a half hour long. Okay, so you get one uninterrupted, cohesive listening experience. But, it just sounds like... It sounds like a bunch of 5 guys playing at random at the same time. And conceptually, I kind of get it. Because Chuck Dukowski is the one who said himself that nothing will happen unless anything can happen. So if you take that in mind as a guidepost, it does make sense that they would try to make music like that. Because nothing will happen unless anything can happen. And really, in circumstances like this, anything can happen. The problem is nothing does happen. There are moments here and there where, it sounds like something is about to happen or is kind of happening, but it just never really gels. And this has been my complaint for a very long time with Greg Ginn's projects, and a few other people have pointed this out here and there. The dude has no edit button. He has no filter. I think what would have made a lot more sense would have been to take the tape that the 5 players made and then gone through it and found the bits and pieces that worked and then used them as foundations for more collective improvisation and group composition, and just worked on a piece using that method rather than just taking the very first results off the bat and saying, okay, that's it. What you hear is what you get. $6.98 list price, SST 56 on vinyl, There really is a difference between good improv and bad improv. Skilled improv and unskilled improv. And I would just have to put this in the category of unskilled bad improv. Tried to like it, couldn't do it. So is it the worst album ever? Probably not. Is it good? I don't think so. Was it worth $1.99? Well, just for the inclusion of this vintage Black Flag tour flyer from 1986, yes, it was. Definitely worth the $1.99. So, thank you, Hippo of Greensboro, for fulfilling my my bad record desire and giving me something that I could talk about to the informed musical cognoscenti for the audience of Tent Talks Tunes. Probably the only group of people on this planet who will appreciate a long, detailed analysis of the October faction. And that really just about wraps it up, man. I've been here for over an hour, and I haven't even, that's the only, the Howard the Duck comics and the October faction are the only things I found that I got around to talking about. The whole story of meeting Abdullah the Butcher kind of really had to take precedence, and it did, and rightfully so. So, whatever, Lord willing and the creeks don't rise, I will be back in 167 hours. And anything could happen between now and then because, as I just said, nothing will happen unless anything can happen. And in this crazy-ass world of ours, anything can happen. But I do believe that I will be back in the aforementioned 167 hours. And the plan stands now for me to dig into the rest of my tour scores. But there might be more to report between now and then. So stay on the edge of your seats, kids. That's where I live permanently. I live on the edge of the seat. I live on the edge of the abyss. Culturally, creatively, musically, philosophically. It's what I do. It's just what I do. So, thanks for tuning in. Remember that if you haven't got yours yet, you need ANTiSEEN Falls Count Anywhere, because it is yet another career highlight for yours truly. This album, let's put it this way. When I played it for the first time, I reacted the same way I always reacted when I was a fan of this group before I joined. Just because I've joined doesn't mean I'm not a raving fan of ANTiSEEN. I even cracked one open and used it in my car. I listen to it while I'm driving around. That's how much I love ANTiSEEN in this album. Is that ego? No. It's mark. It's marking. It's markism. That's how much I love this band. So check it out, guys. If you can't get it from ANTiSEEN's big cartel store, get it from me. And also, I should mention, you notice these are signed. I had requests from a couple of people for signed copies. I got them signed. So if you've been waiting, you won't wait much longer, okay? It's happening. It's here. You can see it. Right there. But the one that's marked property of Malcolm Tent is mine, not yours. Glad we got that settled. See you guys later. Until we meet again, this is Malcolm Tent saying, for now, so long from the Nutmeg State.